to be interviewing David and Guido Cornacchione. Talk to me a little bit about what your earliest memory is in growing up in Fossalto, Italy.
Probably the one that I remember the most when I was very little, just walking, maybe talk about a year and a half, 2 years old, is that we had probably 25 sheep, and about half of them, they need to be milked every morning. So we would get one sheep at a time. The older brother would bring it from the barn into a little spot where my mom had a little bucket to milk in. And I was next to my older brother Theodore, holding the ears. The sheep is here, so would stay still because my mom would, milk it.
At that young, you were trying to participate.
Right.
There are some really funny moments in the story. There are little jokes, little anecdotes, but one of the things that stands out to me that was maybe hilarious isn't even the word, was this story about you taking the job in Brighton, England. I felt like I was there, which is
we should have called it The Big Lie. That should have been the name of that chapter, The Big Lie.
I have to believe that everybody has, even if it's a small moment like that, where they get in.
Well, tell the audience what's going on. He had no background in cooking whatsoever. He picks up a piece of trash off the street in Rome or somewhere, and he sends in this
a
newspaper. He writes out that he's worked in every famous restaurant in Italy, every name, sends it to England as a joke on a bet for like beer.
Right.
Okay, and then they're ringing the bell, bang, bang, in the middle of the day to stop work because he gets the job. Okay, now I'm just giving the people the context of what this is all about. So it was a lie. He had no cooking experience. Not only did he not have any cooking experience, he didn't have any heating experience. He had never warmed a meal. He hadn't even touched a kitchen utensil. He had never washed a dish in his entire life. He had never washed a pot. He had none, zero, zip. And you know what he did? When he got the job and he got there, okay? And they say that he's thinking, what am I going to do if they ask me a question? He just says, tell me how you want it done, and I do it the way you want. And they were so sick of people bragging about their talent that they just told him how to do the job. He never...
So I want to know what that first day was like.
Well, it was like this. We got there, I remember for was now. We got there on Thursday. The owner came and pick us at the train station because after we got off the boat, we took a train. When I say we, I met 3 or 4 other people on the way that they were going to work for the same restaurant, except they were 3 brothers. Each one had 2 restaurants. So I was going to one of them, and they were going to a different one. But they were concerned, and they were cooks, how well they were going to do. And they spoke some English, and I didn't speak it. So anyway, the owner was Italian, so he spoke Italian. He says, well, I'm sure you're really tired with the trip and everything, so you start Monday. But the rooms are upstairs, above the restaurant to sleep and everything. And you come down just to kind of get used to the place, familiar with the place, and you start on a Monday. I thought, cool. So the rest of them, that they were other people who worked there, they would sleep late, and I would get up early and just watch everything they did, the other chefs. So, cool, man, I can do this. I can fry, hamburgers.
No experience, but brilliant. Okay, so he has that advantage. He's like brilliant.
And so I said, oh.
Folks, you can get away with anything in life. You want to be a nuclear scientist, pretend that you know something about nuclear science and get the job. Just tell them you've read some magazines.
The good thing there were some other Italians there. As a cooks. So as a matter of fact, the head chef was Italian.
Paisano.
But I didn't want him to know that I didn't know how to cook. Said,
how did you work around that? That's the
thing.
I
just said, this is how you guys do this. I'll make sure I just do it.
Yeah. This is how you put water in a pot. This is how you open a refrigerator door. That's really good,
Well, the part that was really interesting because at first, the first year of the 6 months, the steaks, we were getting big slabs of meat, And then we got our own. It's okay, 2 steaks. Get the thing and cut the steak. And I says, man, you're making it too big. The owner's going to be upset. You know, the size of it.
Right.
Because they were pre-cut. So there was probably, I had to get used to it, not to give it too much and not too little, to cut it just right.
How did you manage to learn how to cook?
I just watched them doing. I said, it's not that difficult. But can I tell you a quick story?
Yes, absolutely.
If you give me $2.
That was the funniest thing I have ever seen. I never forgot. So I'm working in the evening, and there's an English chef. At that time, I wasn't the head chef. After the second year, I was. So he's the top guy.
Second year, you're head chef?
Right. When I worked alone.
Okay.
You know, like I'm just me and another guy or something like that. So, but he was very feisty because this place was busy. I mean, people were lined up at the door because it was right on the beach, like 1 block from the beach. So he's all mad at all this work. So the waiters had brought 1 steak back. What's wrong with it? Too tough. Oh, yeah? Hey, Guido, watch this. So he bent down behind there so they wouldn't see us. He goes, bing, bing, bing,
No.
bing, bing, under the shoes. He said, "You're too tough, man, too tough, man." Dip her in the oil where we were frying the fish. He puts her on the grill just like, shh. He give it back. He says, "Watch this." He goes, I thought,
Oh! That's pretty funny. One of the things that I was very impressed with in your book is your view on parenting, and you cover a lot of bases there. But I'm interested, what were some of your biggest challenges? What are some of the biggest challenges that you faced as a parent, especially raising children here in America versus back in Italy?
the biggest challenge, definitely, since we moved where we live now, it's more affluent area. And basically, here's this little hairdresser guy moving into a affluent area where the doctors and people make a lot of money. So the kids, they're used to have everything. So natural, my kids said, oh, you know, they have this, they have that, they have a car. Oh, I want to go on vacation, I want me to go with them. And so that was the biggest thing to try to tell them. We don't make that kind of money, and even if I did, I probably wouldn't do it. But that was probably the toughest thing to make them understand. But little by little, they got it. But I think it was Rita who she can talk to anybody, and she was the best friend of all this, you know, rich other kids. So finally one time he says, you know what, Rita, if you think it's so much better and you wish you had the parents that had the money to do that, why don't you ask them if they want to talk to you? She goes, oh, no, I love you, I don't want that.
You mentioned that you were very impressed with the way that David was able to capture just your whole childhood. And one of the things that I found most impressive and really just captivating is the way that the Voice of Guido moved and developed as you grew and aged. Talk to me about how you were able to do that.
Well, when talking about Guido, I always would start with another point, which I'll do first and then answer your question. He was my hairdresser, you know, for many, many years. We've known each other maybe 35 years. And he kept on bothering me about writing this book. I mean, every time I'd come over here, we ought to do a book, we ought to do a book. I mean, I would just say, no, I write during the day. I'm not going to do it on the weekends. I'm not going to do it at night. I'm not going to do it. 15 years pounding on me, okay? The point is that it all starts from the idea that he knows some stuff we don't. Mm-hmm. he's got some knowledge about how to love. You know, I have these friends and they talk to me about love, and most of the time it's like how to have sex with girls. I mean, that's what it's really about for a lot of them, you know. But, you know, in other words, that's what they talk about, you know, something like that. But maybe then there's other friends of mine who talk about love. They talk about making a woman feel loved, you see. And so I realized that there was this repository of information that was of great value to people all over the world if we could communicate it. So then the title was, you know, Guido's Love, and it was originally RX for a Dysfunctional Family. That was the angle in.
I
It was
like that.
Guido's
but I
Love.
like that.
Yeah, RX for a Dysfunctional Family. But that was perceived as a little bit dark. And so then it became ways of loving and raising a family that work. But now down to creating a character. If you look at, like, writing a book is like writing a film script or writing a play. Okay? You have a character. You have to bring him to life. How are you going to do that? You have your words, the things that happen, and the style that you might utilize. I like Hemingway's style, minimalist, and that's the style that I utilized. But so, you know, you're always trying to paint pictures, and you don't really want to say what he is. The story should tell you. You see, a good story, the story tells you who he is. You're not saying he was a mean, uncaring individual, or he was loving. No, let the audience come to that conclusion from the story. And so, in this case, I was very clear in my own mind that you're right. There is a development in the maturity of Guido reflected in the style.
Yes.
So some people pick up the book and they read the first chapter and they're like, oh, this is going to be a children's story. No, that's how he looked at life when he was a little boy.
I love that.
Yeah.
That's unique. That's a hook. That's an angle. And it is engaging. And I like what you say about Hemingway's style because I consider myself the ADHD reader. You get me in, I'm in, but you better get me in the first couple pages or I'm putting the book down. No, that really is the truth. And you know what I saw David doing was not so much engaging and captivating, but channeling, and that is a gift. You don't see that often.
Well, like, let's give some specific examples, and I know you have a point to make, too.
Go ahead.
Yeah. But, you know, the first scene, Morning in America, he's in bed with his wife. And he's listening to her soft, gentle... It says, Guido lay next to his wife, Vincenzo, and listened as her soft, gentle breathing accompanied the rise and fall of the cream-colored sheets. So I had this picture in my mind of, you know, when somebody's breathing at night, you don't see their chest move. You see the sheets, you know? And I like that because it was like waves. Waves of field in the fields. You see, that was my original image. And then, and that's because this will be a movie someday, and that's going to be the opening image, is fields of wheat come into the fields of the rise and fall of the breathing. That's a device, okay? So he opened his right eye. You know, like you just kind of open up one eye and you look at the person you're in love with. And he coursed his hand. It was one of these things, you know. Coursed his hand not more than half an inch from her face, following the curvature of her well-shaped brow, then touching her nose and lips with his fingertips. Touching her nose and lips. I mean, I kind of like that. See, now this is adult, okay? It starts off, he's an adult. So this is how a man is when he's with a woman. And and when he was watching her, he could not help think that it was an invasion of her privacy to touch her while she's asleep. I mean, you know, you touch somebody while they're asleep. It's kind of an invasion of privacy, but how can it be an invasion when it's your wife of 30 plus years?
Right.
It can't. It's not. It's easy as right. Okay, then, that's adult, okay? Now, this is the style when he's a kid. Okay, this is the next chapter. First chapter is one page. Morning in Fossalto, Italy. So it was morning in America, now morning in Fossalto, Italy. But now he's a little boy. He's concerned my fingers would be colder now and I might wear my hat and gloves, but not the warm coat handed down from my two brothers that I'd wear in December and January. So he's kind of thinking of the cold in his hands. And this is an interesting line. He was talking to his grandmother about being mature and getting better jobs on the farm, and she says, Guido, it's not easier work, but you must be more mature for those jobs. And then he says, what is mature? It's just a very bright question for a child to ask. What is mature? His asked, but his mama felt silent and kept feeding the fire. She couldn't answer the question. You can't answer the question as what is mature. It cannot be answered. So it's too difficult. It's too long. You have to be mature to get it. So, but that's the way he is in life. He can't understand this. And he goes, how can it be that rich people sleep one to a bed? How do they stay warm?
No heat.
Yeah, so I'm just saying that his read on life, and then I love this line here. He had a system. Now, this is where he would lie in bed and refuse to get up and scam everybody.
Well, okay, but is that not the story of his life? Is that not the same, Guido that on a bet ends up in Brighton, England?
Well, yes, it's like the Cinema Paradiso character, that the little boy who's precocious, but
Beyond
that's part of him.
Wait a minute.
But very
Beyond
loving.
precocious.
See, there's more love here than
Right.
Yeah.
Not conniving, precocious. There's a
Yeah.
difference.
So he had a system. First, you pretend to be asleep as the others get up. Now, you picture the others getting up out of bed. They're putting on their socks and clothes or whatever. But they begin dressing, and then Papa calls you, Mom. You hear the Papa calling, and then a small move. You make a small move. Like you're going to get up enough so the brothers see. So he scams them. They're like, oh, he's getting up. Then the two brothers go downstairs. You hear the sound of them going downstairs. And then this is the good part. You lie down again and roll the covers all around you until Papa or Teodoro come up to get you. So what a little kid does. They pretend they're going to get up, then they lie down and they go back asleep. And then his father comes up and he takes him and he goes, I'm on to you. I give it to you. You got this far. But if you don't get up, I will tickle you till you cry. And your mama won't be able to stop me. I mean it this time. So these are like the images that come to a child. I'm trying to think of another child thing here. This is a great line too, this particular one. Guido still did not understand. He had heard the man at the neighbor's house, the one who got kicked by his own mule. This is a remembrance. It's a flashback to him as a child. Whispering with his wife once and saying that Guido's father would never amount to much. And he didn't go to school, he never amounted to anything in life. Then his wife's voice stopped whispering, and she loudly said, while slapping her thigh with a spatula, there's much you could learn from a man who has a family who loves him and a wife who thinks he's God, and not sons who steal like yours. He's trying to understand. What does this mean? And then this dear Nana. I'm writing this for my third grade class. I hope my teacher likes it. Every morning I get up and feed. So this is childlike. It's the way a child looks at life. They see things, no context. See? They see things, but there's no context because they don't have enough experience yet. But yeah, it starts off that way. And then he changes. As he gets more mature, the style matures. So by the end, it's a mature person.
But, to me, there would be no opportunity to approach this story the way that you have if it weren't for the relationship.
Well, it's chronological approach, of course. But what do you mean relationship?
Between you and Guido, the time, the investment, the relationship.
The foundation is only as strong as the foundation stones. If you haven't done... like a novel, or a movie script. If you haven't done your research, you have no body of intuitive strength to move forward from.
This is beyond research, though.
5 years was excessive. I didn't really realize how terrible the process was until it was done. And I saw my notes, and they were this thick, and I was like, what am I going to... Because we didn't write anything for 2 years. It was just interviews.
Right.
Over and over and over.
Well, this is not fiction.
See, I could be Guido. I'm not kidding.
No, I understand.
I could be him. I could pretend. All right, let's pretend right now. I'll be you, and you're me. You ask me a question, and I'll answer it, because I can be Guido at this point. Go ahead.
You cannot speak broken English. How can you be...
Oh, yes, I can speak a broken English. I cannot do that. I cannot do that. Go ahead and ask me a question. Come on, ask me a question. All right.
How do you pronounce your name?
Cornacchione.
See? You got it.
Cornacchione.
You just got him.
Cornacchione.
Cornacchione.
See?
Okay, everybody needs a little help. Everybody, don't be so quick to judge. Okay, Cornacchione. Cornacchione. Let's try it again. What is it?
My name is Guido Cornacchione.
My name is Guido Cornacchione.
He got it.
Guido Cornacchione.
Only with your
See, I can be Guido. Give me another question.
Well, to me, I felt like I was right there. In the room when your mom presented you with this satchel. I don't know if it was hidden in your luggage or how it was presented. It's not...
It's a small suitcase.
And again, understand, we never discussed the packet. This was all imaginary. I called him up and it ended up being true. So this is like some
I
weird.
didn't know that. Okay, I did
This
not know
was
that.
never
I was
discussed in our
walking in on
notes.
that story.
No hint of it of any kind. I sat at home and pictured a way to tell this story. I made this up. I
Well-
called him up and it ended up being true. That's a spooky story, but that's what happened.
I
But
thought-
here's what's said.
Can I just?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought I might have told him a year ago, and I forgot. But he keeps saying, "No, you never told me." I said, well, "How could you know?"
Well, I called him because I made it up, and I said, "Did she ever give you something like, you know?" And he goes, "Yeah." But this is the story, and then we'll come back to that. Okay. So he had his book in his small leather packet his mother had made for him before he left Italy. He opened the leather packet made of soft reddish leather and touched the items she'd given him. So you get the satchel in the hand and touches these items. Okay. A stone from the farm. Some soil and what had been a miniature perfume bottle of his mother's. A very little bottle. Little tiny. A leaf which had already started to crumble. You know, beauty fades and the leaf is crumbling. A piece of candy. Now, what's a piece of candy doing there? And her letter. All this was made up. Ended up being true, but I don't know about if the candy and all that was perfect, but he opened it, which is the letter, and read again what he'd read every day since coming to America. So this guy carries around this packet, and every day he opens it up, and he opens up this worn letter that's starting to come apart. My dearest, and I'll say it like your mom said it, and I made this up. My dearest and most beloved son Guido, you are not coming back. I know you think you're coming back. But the world is bigger for you than for us. I love that line. The world is bigger for you than for us. The stone is to remind you how hard it was here, so you don't get homesick. See, that was back-breaking work. Back-breaking work. The dirt to remind you of the smell of your roots. Soil has smell. A leaf to remember there is beauty here. You know, beauty. And a piece of candy to remind you that in the midst of life's sorrows and sadness, there is sweetness. Seek and find the sweetness.
You know, to me, that's the gift of the mother. And when you tell me this story about not having that conversation, I believe your mother is here too.
Now it's time to joke.
Now you're getting choked up. I know.
Yeah, she didn't say exactly the same words, but was just about like that. She said that the world is bigger for you. I need to come.
Now, is it possible that her spirit spoke? Let me give you an example. Those who write about the Holocaust, I believe their spirits touch them.
I do.
The suffering, the prayers, they're still in the universe. Okay? His mother said the world is bigger for you than for us. I called him to tell him
the
this
story.
to see if there was any chance it ever happened. So you tell me, was that his mother's spirit
Yes.
speaking through me? Or what was that? I don't know, but I know this. It's a beautiful story to me. Okay, you never know as an author whether it's a beautiful story to somebody else. You don't. You only know is it a beautiful story. But to me, I liked her a lot. She was a great character in my mind.
Right.
I need to mention that if it was today, it wouldn't be as hard because today we have the world in our hand. You know, you want to go to Italy, as long as you have the money, you fly, you're there the next day. Those days, when someone left, you might not never see them again. I mean, you leave, it probably 20 years because you come with the boat, you need the money. So it was harder yet because your son leaves, and who knows if and when you're going to see him again.
Let's see, where does Guido's love start? With his mother's love for him and the grandmother's love
Right.
for him.
Right.
Very important point. She rubs his ears in the beginning and she says, you're the smart one. You know, you're going to go someplace. You're the beautiful child, which they say to everybody. My grandmother says those things to every child. Okay, they don't single them out. But it was their love for him that scooted him forward to be able to get him where he got.
So I want to hear this story about how David, first of all, how did you hear about Guido, find out about him as a hairdresser and, you know, the whole beginning of getting to know each other?
You want me to tell him? I don't remember.
I don't. Go ahead.
He stopped by because he was working for a radio company. He was selling radio ads.
No, it was a newspaper for a teeny newspaper.
Or a
The
newspaper.
Village Views.
But was something about putting an ad, you know,
Mhm.
new business and stuff. And that's how he actually became a client. That time, he had a little bit more hair.
He had a little more, because I was, you know, I had to go there. I'm like, what? But I knew you when he had
Well,
more hair.
you know, God took half and I helped him out with the other half.
Okay.
And so we kind of hit it off, and he done different things. He was taking pictures after a while, photography.
Photography.
Went from what, but we pretty much see him between haircuts and chat and laugh and tell stories.
One of the things that we could talk a little bit about is the construction of the book. You know, we ended up deciding to self-publish this book at this point. And while the other books that I've done were done by mainstream publishers, we didn't even approach them with this book. And one of the reasons is the way it was crafted. The first part of the book is life story, and it's like, you know, his life
Right.
from when he's a little boy around 6, carrying through to the day that he marries Vincenza, his wife. So we see Italy, the fields, working in the fields, working on the farm, all those little anecdotes. Then he moves to England and is the chef, and then comes to the United States, and we get a taste of that. We didn't really cover in the book what happens from the day that he was married until now.
Except in the stories that are reflected by the
Yeah,
family,
right,
and maybe some of the
and there's
life
some anecdotes,
lessons.
but it kind of ended
But it's
there.
interesting, yes.
And then you have this life lessons section,
Right.
which are very specific lessons. So the story beats are bumpity bump, bump, which in other words, it's set up information and then what you learn. Da-da-da-da, what the lesson is. That's the structure. Then you get the next step in the book, or the next grouping would be like recipes, okay, and then hair care tips. And so for me, I mean, if somebody reads this book and they go, oh, I've learned something about life that maybe, I mean, let's put it this way. As an artist, what do? That which is important. You decide what in life is worth reflecting with the spirit that you have and the time you have on the planet. That's what you do. And you say, okay, this story I could tell, but I don't see the worth. Too much violence. This story is a good story to tell, but I don't see the lesson. But you find something that's a gift to the world. You find something that you think could make life better for others, and you do that. And that's something that, you know, you get to be poor doing. I mean, you know, it's a hard road to be an artist in the sense that you don't make a lot of money all the time. Sometimes you do, sometimes you don't. But you move forward with a gift. And so if somebody gets the sense that there's a gift here, it's because there was a gift for me. And I was thus able to share it with others.